Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into what I like to call a silent epidemic of emotional exhaustion. And what's honestly kind of terrifying about this, most of us don't even realize we have it. We literally spend years unconsciously building this personality that's entirely designed just to avoid disappointing other people. From the outside, it looks completely normal. You're the good, reliable friend, right? The easygoing partner, the flawless employee. But underneath all that, you're masking your true self just to dodge judgment, and let me tell you, it is absolutely draining. Okay, let's dive into this. Ask yourself, are you actually living for yourself, or are you really just avoiding disappointment? Do you ever just feel totally mentally drained, even when, technically speaking, absolutely nothing is wrong in your life? Well, that exhaustion, it often hides a much deeper truth. You might be constantly performing. You're constantly adjusting yourself depending on exactly who's in the room, and you're hyper-focused on how others perceive you. Section 1. The invisible exhaustion. We really need to frame this problem properly right out of the gate. See, this exhaustion, it isn't some sort of weakness. It's an invisible habit. People-pleasing isn't really about just being too nice. It's actually this automatic, high-alert emotional scanning process. You walk into a room and boom, your brain instantly fires off questions. Did they like what I just said? Oh man, was I too awkward? Should I act a little more chill? Wait, do they seem annoyed? This process eats up massive amounts of your daily energy. It makes it practically impossible to just enjoy the simple things because a huge chunk of your attention is permanently tied up trying to read the room. And this brings us to a concept called emotional outsourcing. Basically, this happens when your confidence doesn't come from the inside, but instead, it relies entirely on other people validating your self-image. Think about that classic couples debate, right? You casually say, "Oh, I don't care," when they ask where you want to eat, even though you absolutely 100% do not want sushi. When you do that habitually, you're actively teaching your brain that keeping other people comfortable is way more important than your own preferences. Section 2. The psychology of approval. So how does this exhaustion actually kick off? Well, it starts with fear. For the vast majority of human history, social exclusion from your tribe meant a genuine, literal threat to your physical survival. Because of that, your nervous system actually evolved to react socially way before it reacts logically. And this brilliantly illustrates why criticism literally feels physically uncomfortable in our bodies. But here's the catch. In the modern era, this ancient survival mechanism is massively exaggerated. Today, exclusion isn't about getting kicked out of a physical tribe. Thanks to social media, it's this constant, looming fear of losing likes, validation, and social standing from virtually everyone on the planet. Section 3. Overthinking is social prediction. We really need to redefine overthinking here. It's not just, thinking too much. It's actually social prediction. You are mentally rehearsing scenarios just to prep for criticism that hasn't even happened yet. I mean, think about spending 20 minutes and like 5 different drafts on a simple text message. You aren't doing that because the text itself is some life-altering document. You're doing it as a defensive shield to protect your social image. It takes perfectly ordinary, everyday situations and turns them into these emotionally risky, deeply draining events. And all of this builds up into what's known as the chameleon effect. Authenticity actually feels uncomfortable for us because honesty creates uncertainty, and uncertainty, well, that threatens our need for approval. So what do? We shrink. We start hiding our genuine interests, we pretend to agree with things we totally don't, we force laughs at unfunny jokes, and we completely shift our personality depending on whose room we happen to be standing in. Section 4. Losing trust in yourself. So, what's the devastating long-term cost of all this performing? Simply put, you lose trust in yourself. Real self-trust isn't built by just staring in the mirror and saying daily affirmations. It is built through the cold, hard evidence of your own behavior. When you constantly silence your opinions and dodge setting boundaries, your brain watches your actions and draws a pretty heartbreaking conclusion. It says, hey, we don't protect ourselves. Other people's reactions are clearly more important than our truth. This chronic people-pleasing creates severe anxiety because your internal system just completely loses its stability. That leads us to a pretty stark choice: living a reactive life versus living an intentional life. A reactive life means you're spending years just responding, reacting to expectations, the latest trends, family pressure, and of course, fear. An intentional life, on the other hand, means making choices based on genuine alignment and your actual personal values. Living reactively is exactly why so many folks wake up in their 30s or 40s feeling totally numb, even after crushing major life goals. They look around and suddenly realize, wow, those goals were just inherited and expected of me, not what I genuinely desired. Section 5. Why authenticity feels uncomfortable. Now, as we start looking at solutions, we really have to validate why fixing this feels absolutely terrible at first. Look, if you've spent years shaping yourself around getting external approval, honesty is going to feel super emotionally unsafe in the beginning. Setting boundaries, that's going to feel downright dangerous. This quote really stood out to me. Your identity is changing faster than your nervous system can process. When you finally stop pleasing people, your body literally reacts as if you're doing something terribly wrong. The trap here is misinterpreting that physical discomfort as failure. The second you feel that awkward social tension, you might get the sudden urge to instantly soften your opinions, backtrack, or over-apologize just to relieve the pressure. Don't fall for it. This dynamic perfectly explains why so many of us are terrified of just being alone with ourselves. Stillness and silence, they strip away all those external distractions. They force you to notice that the clothes you're wearing, the goals you're chasing, and even the opinions you repeat are very often just socially copy behaviors, rather than things you actually value. Silence exposes that deep, uncomfortable disconnection from your true self. Section 6. Reclaiming your true identity. Okay, so here is a highly practical approach to building mental independence. Keep in mind, the goal here isn't total emotional numbness. I mean, that's impossible. The goal is simply reducing how much external control others have over your identity. Try these low-stakes steps to start shifting from a reactive life to an intentional one. First, just try to notice your automatic self-editing, but do it without judging yourself. Next, try expressing just one honest opinion. Then, challenge yourself to say no once without launching into some long defensive explanation. And finally, make a choice based entirely on your own genuine preference.
The big takeaway to remember here is that identity changes through repetition, not through some dramatic, cinematic movie moment. These small acts, they matter immensely. As you practice them, you'll find your life starts to simplify. You'll experience less overthinking. You'll spend way less energy desperately trying to control everyone's impressions of you, and you'll have far less anxiety about maintaining some artificial image.
So, the crucial point here is understanding the real cost of living for other people. It's that heartbreaking regret of realizing you were technically present in your own life, but you weren't fully living it. Waiting around for universal approval is a completely losing game because, let's face it, approval is always a moving target. Please do not adapt so much to your surroundings that you forget who you actually are. Which leaves us with this incredibly powerful question. Who are you when you finally stop performing? Look, the longer you live for external approval, the harder it is to hear your own inner voice. Take a step back, sit in that temporary discomfort, and really start listening to what you genuinely want out of your life. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.